Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show. Hello, Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And I'm very excited to introduce today's guest, Charlie Gindele. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, Adi. How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Great, great.
Wait, Charlie. So I'm going to read your bio, but I want to start by saying that I have a lot of respect and admiration for you. You've created something that some entrepreneurs just dream of in terms of your career, what you build. But most of all, you are now giving back because you are training and coaching other entrepreneurs to scale and do better and have successful businesses. And you could have retired and be happy with what you have, but instead you really want to give it forward. So that is amazing.
Yeah, well, I enjoy what I do. Thank you, Adi.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me read the bio. Okay, so you have over 40 years as an owner in the home improvement industry, 425 million in revenue, employing over 1,300 employees. So it's not a small company, but you started small, right? I mean, you didn't start at 425 million. And you wrote three books: Lessons Learned, My Journey from Contractor to Businessman, Build It to Last, and More Lessons Learned, How to Accelerate the Growth of Your Home Improvement Business. So again, you're just sharing your knowledge, which is amazing. So I would definitely encourage our listeners to get those books. And even if you are not in the home improvement, you should get those books because this is a great story and great lessons learned that you can apply to any business.
Yeah, the books are available on Amazon, and I mean, my experience is primarily in the home improvement industry, but I think for any entrepreneur, any small business person, the fundamentals of business are the same regardless. And I think there's a lot of valuable information in there that would be helpful to someone who's, early on in their business career or someone who's maybe even contemplating getting into business.
Absolutely. So Charlie, tell me about your story. How did you get started? Actually, what was your first job ever?
Well, my first job was as a gopher, and that means I worked with my dad. He was a fire captain in Philadelphia, and back then they didn't pay policemen and firemen much money, so he had a second job working for a contractor. And when I was about 10, 11 years old, he started taking me out during the summer and on weekends when I was off from school, and started as a gopher, go for this, go for that, pick that up, carry that, move that, whatever. And but I really, at an early age, I enjoyed working with my hands, and I got a lot of satisfaction from stepping back at the end of the day and seeing what I had accomplished. And I just continued to do that all through high school, and I started my own little home improvement business when I was in college. And then after college, uh, wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I had a lot of work lined up, so I kept doing home improvements in the Philadelphia area. And after about 3 years out of college, I had gotten married and had a baby, and all of a sudden I got very security conscious, and I thought I was, you know, wasting my college career. All my friends were wearing coats and ties, and they were junior executives, and I was still out and selling and installing home improvements. And so I wound up getting a job with Alcoa Building Products, and they moved me to Central Pennsylvania as a district sales manager. And a couple years later, they moved me into the corporate office in Pittsburgh, and I was there for about 3 years and really started traveling all over the country. and saw a lot of places I'd never been to before. And I saw an opportunity in Southern California with this aluminum roofing product we had. And ultimately in 1984, I resigned and my job with Alcoa, which was a great job, but I loved what I did. But I just saw an opportunity and I moved out here to Southern California and started an Alcoa aluminum roofing business, which grew very quickly and very successfully. And then about 5 years into that, started a replacement window division, and then that led into entry doors. And eventually, about 2000, phased out of roofing to focus on windows and doors. And in 2005, I signed an agreement with Renewal by Andersen to be their exclusive Renewal by Andersen window and door dealer here in Orange County. And then later that expanded to the greater LA area. And in 2019, Renewal by Andersen approached us and said, "We want to buy your business. We want to make it one of our company-owned locations." So 2019, they bought the business, and I stayed on for 3 years as the general manager and retired at the end of 2021.
And now?
And then, I didn't really have any grandiose plans when I retired. But one of the things I always said was, some of it was serious, some of it was, you know, in jest was someday I'm going to write a book. Well, I literally sat down after I retired and started writing a book. And out of that came two books. The first one, Lessons Learned, My Journey from Contractor to Businessman. And that's really a business book, and that can be very helpful to a lot of people, I think. And then the other one, Build It to Last, is more of a memoir and my chronology of my evolution and my history. And I got a lot of good positive feedback from the books, and they went on Amazon and became a bestseller. And then I'm involved with Certified Contractors Network. I've been doing teaching and training for them. I teach a business planning boot camp for them twice a year. And that's really changed a lot of people's lives, teaching them processes and systems and getting organized. And then I also coach for the Wealthy Contractor Success Society. So I work with contractors around the country and, we have mastermind calls and sessions, and then we have three face-to-face meetings a year. So it keeps my hand in the game, so to speak, and yet I still have time to enjoy retirement, my version of retirement anyway. So,
Yes. Well, let's go back to that point in 1984 where you saw the opportunity and you quit a job. I mean, at that point you had a family and responsibilities, but you decided, okay, I see an opportunity here. What did you see? I mean, what went through your mind when you when you made that decision?
well, we had this aluminum roofing product at Alcoa that simulated wood shakes and wood shingles. And if you turn back the clock 45, 50 years ago, most of the residences in Southern California were wood shake or wood shingle. If they didn't have a tile roof, they had wood shakes or wood shingles. And obviously, that roof lasts anywhere from 15 to 30 years. Uh, there's a lot of fire problems out here, and these wood shakes and wood shingles provide excellent fuel for a fire,
Yeah.
and whole neighborhoods have been wiped out. So there was a need for a non-combustible roof. And I saw that opportunity. And when I was working for Alcoa, I was trying to get distributors to handle our product, and they weren't interested. And I tried to find some dealers to sell it, and they were marginally interested. And after a couple of years, and I felt like I saw this opportunity. I felt like it was a secret, and I knew about the secret, and it was just a matter of time before somebody else figured it out. So I didn't want to be the second guy in. So at the time, I was 29 years old, and I thought, if not now, never. And I fell in love with the climate out here in Southern California, the weather. It's a beautiful area, and So I just decided, it's now or never, and I didn't want to look back. There's a lot of forks in the road in life, and when you come to one of those forks in the road, you gotta kind of assess your options and make a decision and go one way or the other, and then never look back. Just pour everything you have into it. So I saw this opportunity, and I decided to pursue it, and you know, left a very good job, moved out here about 2,500 miles away to an area that I really didn't know very many people. And it was a lot of hard work, a lot of physical work early, and then hiring people and starting to teach and train them. But early on, it was, climbing up on a roof every day and doing the physical work. But ultimately, I felt like every time I did something, the only thing that happened was it got done. So what I mean by that is I had to slow down and start teaching and training people because otherwise I would be the one that would have to do it. And ultimately, by doing that, it slows you down a little bit. Sometimes you got to slow down to go fast, I like to say. And but I started teaching people building processes and systems, teaching people. So every time we ran into a situation, we had a process or a system for handling it versus just trying to figure it out each time, right? My mind just thinks very systemized and organized that way. And because I realized if you want to build something, you need to have standardized ways of doing things. You just can't be winging it, and then that I think was at the core of helping me build my business uh, over the
That's
years.
absolutely right. And I participated in the workshop that you gave about it when we met in California. And you really think systematically. And this is such an important point because how can you operate a business if you don't have your operations, your manuals in place, if you don't have your systems? That's what you learn, and that's really a key to your success is the ability that you replicated your own success. And I see that, and I'm sure you do too. Entrepreneurs make that mistake of like, well, I can do it faster, I can do it myself, or I can never teach it, or I'm the one who knows, it's in my head, how will I ever teach it? But if you don't figure out how to impart that information, that creates a problem.
Yeah, when I moved out here, I mean, I one of the things I did at Alcoa was I was kind of the in-house expert on how to install this roofing product. And when I came out here to Southern California, no one knew anything about it, right? So, and the first roof or two I installed with a helper, but I realized that that was going to really limit me. And so I had like I said, I could do it faster, quicker, better than someone else, but that meant that I had to do it every time. And that was not going to allow me to grow the business. So I had to slow down, take the time, have the patience also. I think patience is really important to teach and train, and then to start to standardize. And one of the things that I did early on was we had very rapid growth. I mean, there was a time, I mean, about a year and a half into business, I hired 8 employees at one time where business was really taking off. And what we did was we took the steps for installing a roof from can you read a tape measure? Do you know how to change a saw blade to, and chronologically all the steps of
Right.
that you need to go to become a master installer and broke that into a checklist or a system. And then we used that as a roadmap to teach and train the people, and as we brought them on board, we gave it to them and said, here's a roadmap for you. And we gave it to the trainer and said, here's a roadmap for you as to what to train. At the same time, we're building processes and systems in our office for administrator because our volume of new contracts increased, and we had to have a standardized way of processing those contracts, of ordering the materials, of providing material lists for jobs, obtaining building permits, or making sure dumpsters were there. So as you grow a business, you realize that You need those processors and systems, or it's just chaos, and that really limits how much you can grow.
Yes, that is very true. It does limit how much you can grow. And some entrepreneurs don't see that. They just don't take the time to do that. And we see the consequence. The consequences is the ups and downs. The business will do better, and then there will be the drop because they can't sustain it. You can't scale without processes. Wouldn't you say this? So?
Yeah, working with a lot of different people in this industry, one of the things that I do see is, I mean, for the most part, the people these industries are really good people,
Mhm.
hardworking people, they're honest people. Uh, but some of them, in my opinion, are their own worst enemies because they want to grow. And I see people attend seminars and conferences, but yet year after year their business is not really growing, and and to me the one key ingredient, and if I don't know that I have a superpower, but if I do have one, it's the fact that I'm an implementer. I take action.
Right.
You can have all these great ideas, but if you don't implement, if you don't apply the knowledge that you gain, you're kind of just treading water. You're not really making progress. And I see a lot of people that, I don't know, they can't give up, they can't step back, they can't let someone else do it, and it's really a limiting factor in in their careers and their growth and their financial ability to earn money. Just I don't know. I've always felt like even though I thought I could do it better, I got to hand it off to someone else. And
That's right.
and
You have to invest in it too. You have to invest in the personnel. You have to invest either the time, the know-how, in writing those processes and creating the training. You have to invest in training. There's a lot of investment, but that's what we invest things. We invest in things that will get us the return.
exactly. I mean, and so anyway, that's just been the way my mind has worked, and I've always looked at things and tried to create processes or steps, and even in my business, as my business grew, and I think I mentioned over the course of the years I was in business, I had about 1,300 employees. Not
Mhm.
all at once, obviously, but people came and went. But I think at our high point at one time, we had about 160, 170 employees. We were doing about $50 million a year, so about $1 million a week almost, in revenue. And you need processes and systems. And we even had a chart we used, and it showed that, from the time a lead comes in, how that flows through the company to the moment the job's completed, installed, paid for, permits signed off, and then how do we start remarketing to that customer. So we had a process and a system for that, and we would share that with employees and say, look, here's where you come in, and people could see the big picture. And I think it's helpful for people to see the whole process, even though they might only be involved in portions of it, because they realize how important the roles they play are. And, there's the old saying, a chain's only as strong as the weakest link. And, we want to manage those weak links and anyway, but very process system oriented. And like I said, I think if, that and the ability to implement new ideas or try things that maybe we hadn't tried before, I think all played into the growth and success that we had.
Absolutely. So if you have a business owner, let's say right now they are growing the business, but they do feel the growing pains. They're fast growing companies lacking consistency. And they will say, well, Charlie, yeah, you have processes, but you had like so many employees and you had a big company. What would you tell them in terms of like why start? Let's say they got to 5 million. Why do they need processes now in order to get to the next level?
Well, you even I used to say every job we do is the same and every job we do is different, right? Because every job has the same basic components, but then it has its unique idiosyncrasies. but we don't want to have to reinvent the wheel every day, every job, right? When we want to, and it's kind of like an assembly line. When a car goes down the assembly line, the cars might be different, but they have a standardized way of doing it. Well, each job that comes through our business is different, but it has the same components, so we want to be able to process it. And and the other thing I think is important is once you establish these, you got to teach, train, you got to inspect what you expect from people. You can't just see a lot of people, they just hand it off to someone and they walk away. And then, maybe the person doesn't understand, doesn't follow through. So you got to really work at it in the early days. And eventually you get to the point where now you have people that can do things that I used to do better than I could ever do them,
Right.
right? In their own little, in whether it be sales or production or admin or and uh, and then I also I have this saying that we had a lot of requirements of our employees, but the one requirement we never had of any of our employees was the ability to read our mind. So and I talk to owners that are frustrated about certain employees or certain situations, and then I'll say to them, "Well, have you told that to the employee?" Well, no, no. Well, you can't expect them to read your mind. So I think it's really important to have ongoing dialogue, have weekly one-on-one meetings where you have a cadence and even a process for that one-on-one meeting. There's things you cover. And, it takes a lot of involvement, and it also takes stepping back a little bit and letting other people you know, learn on the job and but some of them come up with quicker, better ways, more efficient ways. And then you go in and you revise the process a little bit. I mean, the process isn't static, it's kind of dynamic. To me, it's evolving and it's changing. Uh, and then, nowadays with technology changing, every other minute, I mean, so you can apply technology to use to monitor these processes and systems and in some cases, to speed them up.
Yes, absolutely. And you can integrate all of it and create that system where you're empowering your people. That's really what it's all about. And I love that what you mentioned in terms of the process, the entire process mapping. That's how we always start every project is mapping from beginning to end so
Yeah.
everyone can see. It's a playbook. You even if you play a certain position, you still need to know what the other team members are doing so you can coordinate and you can be part of it. And what you're saying is so true, and we see it day in and day out with so many businesses.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I guess it's fun as a fundamental, and I don't think you can grow success. You can grow, but maybe not successfully, profitably. Some companies grow and they grow from profitability to lack of profitability or little profitability. And to me, as you scale the business, your profitability should increase, not stay the same or go backwards.
That's
And
exactly right.
yeah.
Exactly right. And we sometimes need to invest in order to create that, but that's so true. Charlie, it's been amazing to have you on this podcast. I mean, your knowledge, your expertise totally comes across, and we already mentioned your books. So we are going to have a link to all of them in the show notes so our listeners can click on it, go to Amazon, buy the books. And do you have it on Audible as well?
No, I've been asked by a lot of people to do the audio books, and I just haven't done it. I need to do it because I know, especially in the home improvement business, there's a lot of people that, they don't read well, but they listen well, and
Yeah, you're driving your truck from one job to another, one estimate to another, and listen to you. I mean, that's going to be very powerful. So
yeah, the Windshield University.
that's right. That's exactly right.
So it's on my list to do. I just haven't had the time to do it, but I will do that at some point.
Okay, good. Well, this is going to be an evergreen podcast. So our listeners don't give up. I mean, go check it out. Maybe by the time you listen to this podcast, Charlie has done it. But we're going to include your contact information if our listeners would like to contact you and the links to the books. So, Charlie, thank you so much for being a guest on this podcast.
Thank you, Adi. Thank you for the opportunity, and It's great to share some ideas with you.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.